Right. Thank you so much, Becky, for your lessons learned. I think you guys have, you both are just have a wealth of knowledge around this topic, and I'm really excited that we get to bring this experience. And of course, if parents who are watching have additional questions or want to chat with us more about their experiences, that's what the Virginia Family Network and Youth Move Virginia is about. It's about connecting people and offering that area to connect and support one another. So please reach out to me, and I'm happy to connect you with other parents who might be experiencing similar things. So we have another question. We talked about lessons learned, go back and tell yourself one thing. But Wade, you kind of alluded to this at the beginning where you mentioned how you wish you knew about the resources, during your transition period from high school to adulthood. Do you have any that kind of pop out that you really that were really helpful for you that you would offer other people up?
Gosh, every time I get this question, like my head immediately starts like listing a bunch of things, and then I'm like, wait a second, plenty of people know that. Let me talk about like natural support or friendship or something along those lines. But I think here I'd like to take this opportunity to kind of throw out some more practical resources. Google is an amazing tool for finding what is around and available. Especially if you are a young adult and don't necessarily have your own insurance or don't have control over your insurance situation, finding private organizations or nonprofit organizations that don't necessarily require insurance to offer services is really valuable. And just Googling it is a really great way to find some of that stuff. If you are fortunate enough to have your own insurance, just starting with talk therapy, just work with a therapist. They are significantly more informed than you will be because it's their job. And even if you end up needing a more specific service or resource or something along those lines, they're going to be in a really good position to help you figure out where to go from there. So those, I think, are the two most important, because you don't need a whole bunch of knowledge. You don't need a referral. You don't need anything along those lines. If you just, start typing into Google what resources are available around you, that can be hugely beneficial.
Mm-hmm. And don't worry, we will be sharing resources in the list form that Wade did mention. So in case you, Wade, if you want to share those with me, I'm happy to put them into the PowerPoint too for everybody. Becky, any resources that really helped you out that you want to mention?
Oh, I've got to give credit 100% to the I'm Determined project. The different tools that are available, the website that you can go and look at various videos from students along the way that have moved on. Between that and the resources at NAMI Virginia, that has probably been the two best resources that have worked for our family. Especially, Nick wouldn't be where he is today if it hadn't been for I'm Determined. But what I also learned along the way, if I expected him to grow up and be a functioning adult in society, I had to be willing to let that happen. And I had to push him a little harder, but I also had to push myself to let it happen. So I had to grow with him, and it's been successful.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I appreciate you both saying that. And Becky, something you said is, when we talk about transition, it's usually about the youth, like transition age youth, like how are the youth transitioning? What do they need? How do we support them on this journey and on this next step, be it whatever that transition looks like. And yes, that can bring up stressors for that youth, but at the same time, they're not the only ones going through that transition. It's a family you know, depending on the family unit or the support, the natural supports like Wade was talking about around that youth, everyone is pretty much going through a transition at that period. And so that's something that is really, I believe, important to remember, that it's okay to give ourselves grace, because we might be handling the transition differently, and that's okay. But it's also important to recognize how you also handle transition, because that can, you know, it can affect the unit as well. So any other final thoughts, you guys? You have such great stories, and I feel like we could talk more than a 20-minute frame about transition and everything. But is there any last words that you want to impart on the parents that are going to the I'm Determined conference, and who are potentially working through these transitions with their youth or young adult?
Talk to other people. Talk to other parents and caregivers. Be willing to share what you're going through, because I guarantee you'll find somebody else that's going through the same thing you're going through. And you can share what's worked and what didn't work. And you'd be surprised how you can help somebody else.
That's great. Wade?
Talk to your kid. Have an honest and straightforward conversation. If there's something going on that's complicated or difficult or putting a strain on your relationship, bring it up, but not from a position of authority or anything along those lines. Ask questions. Just be like, hey, what's bothering you? Is there something that I'm doing that's bothering you? Is there anything that we can do together to, you know, ease this tension or help this transition along, or anything along those lines? And if you get an answer that you don't like, respect it, because your youth or child in this situation is either transitioning to become more of an adult or experimenting with that autonomy for the first time in their lives. And to resist them when they're just kind of stepping in and experimenting with it is not very productive or beneficial for anyone involved. So just respect that they're a person and listen to what they have to say.
Mm-hmm. Wow, all amazing insight and guidance. I think, like we said in the little blurb about this quick engagement conversation, is, you know, we are helpful resources for each other. Like Becky said, support, and then what Becky said, listen. I think those are like the two top like takeaways, if anything, from this conversation. So I want to thank both Wade and Becky again for joining me for this transition discussion.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. After the slide, or at some point in this workshop, there will be a PowerPoint slide for you to review that will have resources that you can go to around transitional age youth, potential warning signs to look out for related to mental health during this time period, so stress triggers and things like that, and other tools that potentially Becky and Wade might want to share that we can all put together for you. So if you have any questions, my information will be on the PowerPoint slide. Please reach out, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your summit, and thank you to I'm Determined for having us today. So bye, everyone.